International justice, I don't think, can exist or flourish without public buy-in, engagement, and participation. The perception of the public is most crucial.
Certainly there's this issue of the perception of bias of the ICC. They are up against some formidable forces in information dissemination. And it's true that some governments have really put a lot of resources into trying to propagate a certain narrative about the ICC, including that Africa as a whole has turned against the ICC, when we know, in fact, the reality is that there's a wide range of opinions among governments, and certainly African civil society has campaigned for African governments to work to strengthen the ICC, improve the ICC, but certainly not to undermine it or for African governments to remove themselves. I really cannot emphasize enough how difficult it has been to get into the media coverage on this issue. There is nothing like an accusation of quote-unquote race hunting by the ICC to get coverage in every outlet, local and international, on this issue. But you can have information about the facts, about the limitations legally of the ICC. You can have civil society being out there, whether in video or statements endorsed by hundreds of civil society activists, encouraging African governments to stand up in support of the ICC, that will never get significant coverage. How to deal with perception problems that the ICC faces. And certainly one of the issues we talked about was how to then respond publicly, and that was one of my recommendations to the accountability group. One way it can make an important contribution is helping to put the facts out into the debate. Because as a group of high-level personalities on justice, I think there is potential to access media in a way that perhaps others may not be able to. And from civil society's perspective, this is really an important contribution in ensuring justice can get the necessary support it needs in Africa. This symposium is actually happening at a very important point in developments on the Africa ICC landscape. On the one hand, you have the January 2016 summit that empowered an African Union committee to look at the issue of mass withdrawal of ICC states parties who are African states. This is a huge challenge for the court and for governments committed to justice. On the flip side, you have an important, I think, opportunity, which is that perhaps in reaction to the extent of that push against the ICC, several, I don't want to overstate it, but several African states joined more vocal ICC supporter Botswana in July 2016 at the AU summit to push against a push for withdrawal. Those states were Nigeria, Senegal, Tunisia, Cote d'Ivoire, and then subsequently Cabo Verde and Democratic Republic of Congo. This is really the first time in recent memory that African states, aside from Botswana, have spoken up in support of the ICC at the African Union. And this is something, in my view, that really needs to be built on in the coming months, including to praise those states like Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire who were on the record in support of the ICC, and to encourage other states to join them in this effort. And in particular with Senegal, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, I really see the potential for a kind of West African core group of states that can be clear in their support for the ICC, not to avoid important discussions about improvements, but to ensure that this issue of withdrawal is permanently put on the back burner, and so that a more constructive discussion about how to advance justice can happen.